What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman here for Stokastic.com, back again with the NFL DFS contenders on FanDuel for week 4 in the NFL. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Let me know in the comments, what do you like from this video? What do you dislike? Who are your favorite and least favorite plays for this Sunday's main slate? Finally, PrizePicks is the sponsor, guys. Go sign up there. Take advantage of this offer. There's a link in the description. Click it, head on over, make a deposit. Whatever you deposit, they will match it up to $100. And you don't need an optimizer to play there. Sorry, Fantasy Cruncher, but this is player props. We don't need you for this one. We need you for everything else. If you can pick these player props and you put 5 on a card and you hit all of them, you'll net up to 10x your entry fee. Plenty of sports. You can cross-sport this stuff as well. Just go check it out, guys. Who doesn't like free money on a deposit? I know that I do. Now, we're looking at defenses on the screen. The Steelers are number 1. Everybody looks exactly the same. Put in the defense that fits no matter what. If you've got a line on one, go for it. It's not important to me. 8% likelihood that it's the Steelers as your optimal, which means 92% it's one of the other teams that play. It's just not that important. But what is important? Top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. Here we go. We've got a very clear top 2 at tight end. The rest of this is bunched together. Everett, Schultz, Tanyan, Waller, and Goddard round out the bottom of the top 10. Zach Ertz in at number 5, 5,500, projected for 8 fantasy points. The Cardinals are 1-point favorites against Carolina, 43.5 point total. He's not going for 30. That much I'm feeling pretty safe about. But 7% chance that Zach Ertz is your optimal tight end. You just get there based on value. If the touchdowns are, if somebody's not doubling up on touchdowns at tight end, then it can basically be anybody. Zach Ertz should certainly get some opportunities. I don't have much more to say about Zach Ertz, and I very rarely am going to have a lot to say about my 5th ranked tight end on any slate. Pat FREIERMUTH in at number 4, 5,600, projected for 8.8 fantasy points. The Steelers are 3-point favorites against the Jets, 41.5 point total. Again, you're not expecting a crazy monster day out of FREIERMUTH, but still 8% likelihood that he is in the optimal. I mean, just think about it like this. If I look at 4 through 10, I'm doing it on the screen right now. That's 43% likelihood. I could give you everybody in this group, and you're still less than a coin flip of getting the optimal tight end correctly. It's just hard. Bring them along for the ride in the stacks and hope that they vulture some touchdowns. We're taking very little steps up in tier, but you're going to see it explode shortly. TJ Hockenson in at number 3, 5,400, projected for 8.4. The Lions are 4-point favorites against the Seahawks, 48 point total, very appealing from a scoring perspective. 9% chance to go for north of 30 fantasy points. Again, you're probably just hoping that Hockenson gets in that, like, I don't know, 8 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown range. You do that, he's perfectly fine in any lineup you have. Now we're jumping up. 6,100 for Kyle Pitts at number 2. 14% chance he's your optimal tight end. Things are just different here. Projected for 10.2 fantasy points. Atlanta, 1-point dogs, 47.5 point total against Cleveland. Again, you're not expecting 30, but you don't need 30. He's going to get you like into that 20 range, and at that point in time, you're going to need it. 13.5% likelihood. We're rounding it up to 14. 5 percentage points clear of TJ Hockenson, which is the same that Hockenson is of the number 10 guy in Gerald Everett. It's just a completely different tier, and we're not done climbing yet. It's a huge price tag, but nobody has the ceiling of Mark Andrews, 8,400, projected for 15 fantasy points. Baltimore, 3-point dogs in this one in Buffalo, 51 point total though. We are expecting a ton of fantasy scoring. He's got a 3% chance to score 30 fantasy points, which is not very easy to do on FanDuel. 17% likelihood that Mark Andrews is your optimal tight end this week. You're going to have to find the salary. You're going to have to find some value elsewhere, but he completely warrants that price tag. We've got a pretty clear 3-man tier at the top of wide receiver. We're rounding it out with DJ Moore, Courtland Sutton, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, and Amon-Ra St. Brown if he plays. I know he's been a little banged up this week. 8K for St. Brown, projected for 14. Lions are the favorites with the big total. I like pairing up St. Brown with Hockenson and getting yourself a little bit of a Lions stack. Seems pretty easy to put together. 8% chance that St. Brown goes for more than 30. 12% chance that he's in the optimal, which looks just like Lockett and Cooks and Johnson and Sutton. as high as 5, as low as 9. They're all basically the same. 4 and 3 basically the same as well, and 4 basically the same as well. And then we go into the top 3. Drake London in at number 4, 6,300, projected for 12 fantasy points. A very obvious combination with Kyle Pitts and an Atlanta stack, if that's what you want to do. They're 1-point dogs, but a 47.5 point total. We're just expecting scoring here. There's no telling where it's going to come from. Atlanta's garbage, but, you know, we're playing DFS. Doesn't matter how good they are. 4% likelihood that Drake London goes for more than 30, 13% chance that he is optimal. You're rostering Drake London to save some salary, but that completely works as a pay down option, or at least a pay middle option. Looks really good. Now we get into the good stuff. 18% chance to be in the optimal, 5% ahead of Drake London. We've got CeeDee Lamb, 6,800. That price tag is nice. 13.7 fantasy point projection. Cowboys 3-point favorites against the Commanders. 41 point total is not exactly what you want, but seems to be working because of the price. 5.5% likelihood that CeeDee Lamb goes for more than 30, but 18% chance to be in the optimal. I think he looks exceptional here. Part of this 3-man band I want at the top. But what's really crazy is that even if you want to go to these 3 guys, there's a really good chance that none of them are in the optimal lineup. Like, it's very close to a coin flip for those 3 guys to just have one representative. You got to pay up for this one. $8,700 Stefon Diggs, also in at that 18% spot, projected for 16.7 fantasy points here. Buffalo, 3-point favorites against Baltimore, 51 fantasy point projection. 11% chance that he goes for north of 30. 18% likelihood to be in the optimal. Look, you're paying up for a monster ceiling at a Diggs. We didn't see a lot of guys with this sort of 30-plus point ceiling. Now, you're going to have to pay up for Josh Allen as well if this is a stack you're trying to do. Find some value elsewhere. That's where Drake London types come into play. But everybody here knows that Stefon Diggs in a game with a 50-point total is very interesting from a fantasy perspective, basically no matter what his price is. Similarly, we've got Davante Adams in at number 1. He's 7,900. Sub 8K price tag. Keep your eye on it. 15.2 fantasy point projection. The Raiders, 2.5-point favorites against the Broncos. 45.5 point total. He goes for north of 30, 8% of the time. So not the same ceiling as Stefon Diggs right now, but the price tag is a little bit more palatable. 19% likelihood to be in the optimal. Obviously, you can bring Courtland Sutton in as a bring back option in the type of stack. If you want to go to a Raiders stack, Josh Jacobs, somebody we'll probably be talking about at the running backs. Whether it's Adams, Diggs, or Lamb, they all look good. Adams in at the number 1 spot. Running back looks pretty similar to wideout for this Sunday. A.J. Dillon, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Najee Harris, and then Austin Ekeler in at the number 5 spot. 8,400 for Ekeler, projected for 15.7 fantasy points. Chargers are 5-point favorites here, 45-point total against Houston. We don't know the status of Keenan Allen quite yet, which feels like the same thing that happens every single game of every single year. 6% chance for Austin Ekeler to go for north of 30. So there is a ceiling, but you don't totally need it. 13% chance that he is your optimal running back, which means you're probably going to be okay getting to like 25 out of Ekeler. Seems more than reasonable against this Houston Texans team. Bit of a step up in tier here. Jamaal Williams sort of on his own tier. The other 3 guys are going to be ahead of him. 7,400, projected for 15.9. The Lions look great. We already talked about Hockenson. 4-point line for the Lions with a 48-point total. There's a ceiling on Williams that you don't even really need. 6% chance he can go for 30. Again, you probably only need like 25 out of Williams to really get you there because he's in the optimal lineup 17% of the time. You get 24 plus out of Jamaal Williams, I think you're feeling pretty good about where you stand. I mean, honestly, anything north of 20 and you call it a success, that's for sure. But there is a real chance at 7,400 that Jamaal Williams puts up a staggering score. And yet, he still can't crack the top 3. It would have been a lot cooler if I just hit that line perfectly. In at number 3, we've got Christian McCaffrey. If he plays, we shall see. 8,800, projected for 18.3 fantasy points. Carolina gets to take on Arizona. They're slight dogs, but McCaffrey should be involved no matter what the script is for the game. 43.5 point total. 11% chance McCaffrey goes for north of 30. 19% chance he's the optimal. So again, 25 plus is really what we're looking for in this spot. If he's out there, I'm going to assume he's healthy enough to put up a big game. I will be getting there. It scares me a ton. I assume it scares everybody else a ton, but I don't really see a way around it if he's available on Sunday. This one just feels obvious and easy. Saquon Barkley in at number 2, 8,100, projected for 17.5. Giants are 3-point favorites against the Bears. The only part that sucks is the line is under 40, 39.5 here. 10% chance Barkley goes for more than 30, 20% chance he's optimal. I think the floor is just very high here. We lost Sterling Shepard this past week, so potentially more opportunity for Barkley. I don't know how much more he could actually take on, but they're down a man now. Now, obviously, somebody else is stepping into that role, but that person is also not as good as Sterling Shepard, so maybe Barkley sees an extra target or two or gets an extra carry or two. Either way, at 8,100, whether Shepard got hurt or not, Barkley was going to look good. And finally, we close it out with a guy that I have not gotten a lot of this year, but we know what he's made of. 8,700 for Jonathan Taylor. 18 fantasy point projection. Colts taking on the Titans. 3.5-point favorites. 43-point total. He can go for north of 30, 13.5% of the time. He in the optimal 20% of the time. Same as Barkley. So dueling pay up options at the 20% mark. I don't know what else to say here about Taylor. You're expecting, and we're all waiting for him to just go bananas. There's a reason he's priced like he is. I think that price tag actually works here against Tennessee. You get 25 plus out of Taylor, you're there. He just has to be able, we just have to see the Colts get into the red zone and let Jonathan Taylor punch it in. Do you want him to break an 80-yard run? Yeah, he's gonna get there a lot easier when he does that, but we just need some touchdowns to justify the price. And one of these days, he's going to punch it in 2 times, 3 times, and you're going to need to be there. No reason it can't be week 4. Now, before we get to that number 1 contender, one last reminder, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. Let me know in the comments who your favorite plays are, and then sign up at PrizePicks. Link is in the description. Closing it out at quarterback here, Trubisky, Jones, Murray, Smith, and Herbert round out the bottom of the top 10. Derek Carr in at number 5. There's no separation between 3 and 10. You can justify really anything at quarterback as long as you're putting your stack together correctly on the opposite end. But the top 2 quarterbacks are on a different tier. Carr's 7,200, projected for 18.5. Raiders are 2.5-point favorites. We saw Davante Adams be the number 1 wide receiver. If you're rostering Adams, you're probably bringing Carr along too. You can bring Sutton along as a bring back. Bang, there you go. There's a stack for you. Fill out the rest of your lineup elsewhere. 6% chance to be the optimal quarterback. It's just really difficult to talk about something like that. Similarly, there's nothing exciting to talk about for Marcus Mariota other than the fact that he's my number 4 quarterback this week. 7,300, projected for 19.5. 47.5-point total says there's going to be a lot of scoring here. 13% likelihood he goes for north of 30, but at the same time, you're gonna need, that has to happen for him to even be functional. 7% likelihood he's your optimal quarterback. Multiple quarterbacks are gonna go for 30 plus fantasy points. You'll get like 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. As far as I'm gonna, they're interchangeable at that point in time. The difference at optimal for quarterback is really who's optimal with him. Here's a no-brainer for you. $8,800 Lamar Jackson, projected for 22.7 fantasy points. Massive ceiling for Lamar, which everyone on the planet knows if you follow football. And a 51-point total just says there's going to be a lot of scoring here. 22% chance he scores 30-plus fantasy points. And he has to really give you that shot at that upper echelon lineup. But even still, just a 7.5% chance to be optimal. You would think he'd be in the tier with the next 2 guys, but he just isn't. Not this week, at least. Jalen Hurts in at number 2, 8,600, projected for 24 fantasy points. Philly, huge favorites here, 45.5-point total. Grab yourself some Dallas Goedert if you need it. 27.5% chance he goes for more than 30, and a 13% likelihood he is your optimal quarterback. He's just on a different tier than everybody else except for the number 1 guy. There's a big separation for me between Hurts and Jackson. Does that mean you can't play these guys below him? No, absolutely not. That's not how this works. But Jalen Hurts' individual odds look incredible this week. But they are not quite as good as $8,900 Josh Allen, projected for 25 fantasy points. We've talked about this game a lot. Clearly, you want to put Allen with Diggs. The 51-point total is what we're looking for here most. 33 83% likelihood he goes for north of 30, and you need that 1/3 outcome for Allen to even be sniffing the top of contest, because 8,900 is no joke. You need every bit of it. If you fail with Josh Allen, you're already dead in the water for winning a GPP. 13.5% chance. We're rounding it up to 14. Josh Allen is your #1 quarterback this week. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. Those are my NFL DFS contenders on FanDuel for week 4. We're already 4 weeks into this. It's insane. DraftKings version of this video is around here somewhere. Check it out. Good luck this weekend, everybody. Win a little bit of money. Bring it in for the real thing. Let me know how you do in the comments. We're back again on Sunday morning for another edition of the Contenders.